Hello again to all the fine folks tuning in whenever, wherever, and however they're doing so to this podcast recap installment for episode 9 of the sci-fi original series Revival. As always, we say spoilers abound, so if you're checking this podcast episode out, maybe after and only after you're fully caught up to and have seen what is episode 9, Mother of Babylon of Revival here. We're back at it discussing it with Liz MacArthur, my co-host. How you doing, Liz?
Hi, great. I'm doing great. I've already taken up too much time. Let's keep going.
Let's keep going. No, and as always, we are also joined by the co-creators, the co-showrunners, executive producers of said series. Welcome, Luke Boyce and Aaron B. Koontz.
Yo.
Aaron sometimes nods, and so for the audio listeners, he is acknowledging that he's here. But
no, there was a third yo. Like Luke had 2 yos, and I had a yo, so it was 3 yo-yo-yos.
3 yo-yos.
I was gonna
in total.
Yeah. Tony. That's a pop star reference.
That's Pop star never stop stopping that's so funny. I love that you just referenced that. Okay.
Yes. Episode 9 again, Mother of Babylon, the coolest sounding bird name ever. But we will jump right into this one. This was on the heels of the big flashback Black Deer episode. There is a lot of things happening in this episode. Liz even said off air, like she did not have a moment to breathe, it felt like, because it does kind of kick into a breakneck pace here. So jumping right in. After seeing Ibrahim unconscious at Moore Creek, after M had risen from the water under that voiceover line from M to Dana that she couldn't bring Ibrahim with her, we do open on Ibrahim, as Luke promised in the previous installment. His hands zip-tied to a chair, bandana over his mouth. He comes to and begins bouncing around and shaking, trying to jar himself loose, and he does actually manage to knock himself backwards and fall. We are in Blaine's shed, and we know this because a door slides open and in walks Blaine Abel himself, gun in hand, and he kneels over him saying, "You're awake. Lovely." And that actually takes us quickly to our opening credits, a shorter tease than usual, but we'll continue just for a moment because it's the same scene we come right back to. Blaine pulls his gun back, moves the bandana down from Ibrahim's mouth. He says he was lucky that his men were scouring the area, and Ibrahim says, he's heard all about you, preacher. You should have just left me in the creek where you found me, to which Blaine replies, "For the soldiers to find you? You're a great doctor after all, he who studies revivers." And he continues by saying, he read his notes. There's something he's hiding. Why don't you tell me who started Revival Day and we can help each other? And Ibrahim here is just not really having it. He says, don't you have all the answers, or are you just pretending for all your followers? And Blaine says, I want to know the origins of evil so I can fight them. Ibrahim again just calls him a hate monger. And Blaine reminds him that on Revival Night, he was called to tow a car, and he felt this blast of energy come through the forest. He saw that light shine from the sky, and he ran to find its origin, but it was too late. The gates of hell had already opened. Demons were free. Ibrahim says he was probably waiting for something like this to happen so that he could continue to stoke fear and pretend to be chosen by God. And again, this angers Blaine. Anytime he gets called a fraud, he says to him he's been called a lot of things, but a fraud he is not, and he is going to prove it. Ibrahim says, you actually believe what you're selling, huh? To which Blaine puts Ibrahim's notebook on his chest and says, maybe you should too.
Yeah. What do you know? Blaine has daddy issues too. So, it's just pervasive. Everyone's got dad issues. Like, how the hell does that happen?
We don't even hear the last of it of his. I think Wayne calls him specifically on a few later, but we'll get to that.
Well, yeah, we're just alluding to it, right? We're kind of like teasing what's going on here. We were talking off air for a second, but we'll reference that. The reason that this is a short tease is because this was not supposed to be the tease. And there was a beautiful scene. This was not even something that we broke in the writer's room. This was just all credit to Noel. Had written this really, really interesting backstory of child Ibrahim doing something. And I don't want to give it away because it's so great that we want to use it in a future, if we're lucky enough to have a future season. We'd want to do that. But yeah, so it's meant to be that. And this was really a big Ibrahim episode. Ibrahim and Blaine, I think in particular, were really kind of playing with this science and faith that's not as black and white as the Lost. Like, we were constantly referencing the Jack and Locke of Lost and the science and faith of that. But in Lost, they're very one is very science, one is very faith. Here, it's like they're both mixing, like they're both trying to understand each side. And Ibrahim's very conflicted, and he's now looking to his faith to help explain the gaps in his science, which I think is a really fun place to be. And that's going to continue throughout this episode. But yeah, it's a real bummer. We'd even cast young Ibrahim, for the scene, found the whole thing. But as Luke had mentioned off air, we cut it because we couldn't decide. Was it the episode 9 teaser or the episode 10 teaser was going to get cut? There were 2 separate scenes that were both flashbacks, not giving anything away. And we're like, well, 10 was a Dana and M flashback. So we're like, okay, we should probably do that. And then in 10, you'll find out that flashback also got cut. And now we have neither. And this is where we're at. And I remember rewriting this open and I was like, it could end on Lovely. And I was like, okay, that'll work. We'll try that and see if it plays. So both 9 and 10 kind of like jump in to our action, which I think is good. There's so much going on that I don't think we have to necessarily introduce more questions. We got plenty of questions going on. So I think that worked out anyway. But yeah, that is the origins of 9 that had changed.
Right. So no shaving Ibrahim's face and putting him in a ball cap and Tobin Bellingham is what you're saying. You actually cast a baby Andy.
Yeah, it was like a 9-year-old, or I don't know how it was. Like they were very short human.
It was great.
So that's 9-ish, I think.
For the visual listeners, we're joined by young Luke today, who's in a ball cap. So he's 10 years younger.
There you go.
Whoa,
little kids. Yeah.
Yeah, he just turned his hat around and
He just over the topped his hat. Another reference just for Aaron.
Yeah.
I got it. Thank you. The audio listeners are missing out on some stupid shit. We're back to Dana, who opens the police weapons storage. JP and some other officers are seen in the background. May Tao is in the room with her and says, the last thing you want to do is turn Blaine into a martyr for his cause. Dana says, he killed your girlfriend and my sister, and now she's missing. And I know it was him, basically. JP walks up to the locker and says, they do have the element of surprise, so let's use it. Wayne also walks up, grabs a rifle from the locker, and says, JP's right. They need to be smart, but they do not want to start a full-blown war with his militia if they can help it. We're now back on Ibrahim, and now sitting across from Blaine, who's sitting in that sleep chair from last episode. He asks when Ibrahim lost his faith. The doctor says he didn't. He just doesn't allow it to cloud his reason. And Blaine says, my angel would have opened your heart. I lost her, but she'll come back to me. A beacon of light. To which Ibrahim says, wait, a yellow light? Did your angel also call out with a moaning sound too? And Blaine kind of stops, realizes he's maybe saying too much, and he says it's your turn to share. And Ibrahim again says, I'm not helping you. I'm not helping you hurt them. And Blaine suggests, like he has said to Wayne and others, we want the same thing. And I see the same fire in your eyes, and that you want to know, you want to understand, you came here for a reason. And then Ibrahim speaks a line from the Quran, first in Arabic and then repeats it in English. Every soul shall taste death. And after a beat, the police actually charge in from both sides of the room. Wayne says hands where you can see them. Dana sees Ibrahim and asks what he's doing there and where's M. He says he does not know. We jump now to Riverside. M, who was spoken of, is now seen behind that heavy-duty cell they constructed. And General Kale is having a conversation outside with Dr. Carla, who asks why the extreme measures for her. Kale says M needs triple the dose. She heals faster. She's demonstrating an unmatched threshold for violence. And Kale says the clock is ticking and that she needs to remove all the revivers. She'll find them, but she needs Carla to account for the control of it all. And Carla says she's experiencing psychosis and is not fit to be moved in regards to M. To which Kale replies, then fix her. And we do see M pacing back and forth in the cell behind them in the distance. And now close on M, we actually see her dead mom Patty in the cell with her, and she looks like she just, stood up and walked away Beetlejuice style from that tragic accident, bloody and cut up. And she says to her, Martha, you're going to be okay. And M says, Mom, in a shaky way, and is shaken by it all, and then kind of shakes out of it, which ends Act 1 for us.
What do you have to say for yourself?
I mean, well, first of all, noting specifically that M requires triple the dose, right? So she's healing faster. She's stronger. And as far as we know, she can heal. And we don't know that other revivers can heal. So there's something different about M, I think, is especially something that we want to clock here. And then
she can heal others. Just to clarify, she can heal others.
Yeah.
Others obviously can. Yes.
Yeah, we saw Arlene's brain. Go back. So we know that they can heal in some capacity.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're good.
But yeah, and then I think, obviously that's going to, along with everything that has happened to her and everything that she's going through, and now they're basically pumping her full of this snake venom, which is also, I think, forcing this psychosis to happen on top of that as well.
I would also clock that Patty has puncture wounds on her. We know they hit a deer. So if you were to strategically place deer antlers onto Patty, you'd probably figure out exactly kind of what happened there.
She literally hit a deer?
She took the final destination log of deer antlers right into her? Okay.
A deer goes into the car, yes, and it's pretty horrific. And we actually placed where the deer antlers would go to see where the puncture wounds would be. But that's, again, a future thing. But just wanted to track that. And LJ Largene Chostecki, I think is how you say your last name, from Hannibal. I might be saying it wrong. I don't know. LJ is wonderful. Just love what she's doing in this. And then you don't really get into it in this scene yet, but just wanted to clock, like, I think what she's saying, like her demeanor, the way she's talking to M throughout this episode, I think will be interesting to really focus on. And then I also just want to flag that I think that Ibrahim has Andy McQueen has like 2 or 3 like legit badass moments in this episode that just make me so happy for him, because he's such a passive and sweet guy. And then when he gives the line here at the end, I think it's just really, before they come in, I think it's really great. And there's another one in the car with Carla that I think is just pretty badass, and proud of him because I think he's pretty cool in this episode.
Yeah, he definitely kills it.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about this episode, and after this as well, is the moments between Ibrahim and Blaine, where Aaron kind of touched on it already, but it's this idea that they're the two figures who are most interested in dealing with what is Revival Day, what happened here. You know, Ibrahim, who has been trying to take a science approach to it and has seen something that he can't explain, something supernatural. And then here comes someone who thinks he knows what that supernatural thing is. So now they have something to talk about. They have something in common. And we're going to kind of see how that changes Ibrahim throughout this episode, especially, and his thoughts on Blaine and his thoughts on, you know, the mystery and his struggles with how to explain it.
It's a good point, because we do want to say, like, what is this thing that's come out of the woods that is now combined, touched with Jordan and with Jesse? And so Blaine is flat out saying he's calling that an angel, right? And he's calling revivers demons. And so this is his way of reconciling what's going on. And then Ibrahim is immediately challenging that. You know, did your angel do this? Like, because I've seen an angel too, essentially, quote unquote, what you're calling an angel. And it's not quite what you're thinking. And then there's also, obviously, we're going to get into the wand of it all and some of that. But this is an episode to start to try to figure out what these things are. And there's a lot of clues and pieces of information within their conversations. And again, what's happening with Wanda, we're seeing more of that later on in this episode to track that.
Do you guys do you just remember everything, or do you have to watch the episode before we do this? Or do you just remember all this stuff because you lived it?
Little both.
Okay.
We've been live tweeting them, so you are getting a bit
that's
of a...
true, yeah.
True. We also have watched the episodes like 50 times.
Oh,
I mean, if
at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least. Yeah, no, I mean, there's nothing. The only thing that I worry about sometimes is that I'll confuse which episode something's happening.
Yeah.
Because it's all one big episode in my head.
That's why I was wondering, yeah.
But no.
Okay.
Yeah, but now we're getting toward the end, so I have a pretty good idea of like where this is at. And especially with 10, like there's a very specific cutoff of 9 with a very specific set of rules and plans and agendas in 10. So I know what I'm not spoiling there. Yeah.
Well, it's just been, I've been wondering that this whole time because I've been wanting you to slip up. And you haven't, and it's annoying.
I'm sure we have at some point.
That's true. I probably wouldn't have noticed.
A couple of the actors we've interviewed had to get like a bit of a refresh on what they were doing because they had shot them in blocks and were out of order completely. So if they weren't live tweeting along and didn't have that refresh a couple nights before we record, understandable.
Well, and a lot of them haven't, like literally just seeing the episodes for the first time on screeners that they haven't seen since they've shot. So yeah, totally different situation there. It's got to be hard to put that together.
Thank you.
We're back. Blaine is in the station being interrogated by Dana with Wayne in the corner. She's asking him the details on Brent, the $10,000. He says he's a tow truck driver. He does not have that kind of money. She says he had enough to try and buy the land from the Blackdeers. And he said he gave that away before her sister was killed. Who'd you give it to? Dana asks. And Blaine gets snippy here and says that's someone's business and only God can judge him. She says she's tired of all the chosen one business. And Blaine asks who in her family failed him so badly that she ended up a murdered junkie, which prompts Wayne to sit down and give him a really great bad cop routine here. Ask him how he must have felt losing everything so publicly, so shamefully, and then to have your mother run out on you and your father gets killed. And Dana, chiming in with him too, saying, and you find these 2 young women and you're just angry and you want to punish them. And Wayne even continues that he used Aaron and Brent to lure them into the woods so he wouldn't be caught. And Dana again saying, you just tried to play God. And he persists here that he did not kill Rose nor M. Wayne says they found Rose's body in a car in his lot. And Blaine just kind of snaps, starts screaming bullshit at them. It's bullshit. Calls them reviver lovers who set him up. You just want to destroy me like you destroyed my father. And Wayne calls his father a fraud too, who swindled people, conning people that Blaine had stigmata. Wayne says, goes to the side with Dana and says, we know how and why he did it. We just hope that his militia can handle the news that he's a fraud because his father's flock could not. We pull back from this 2-way mirror a few times during this scene and actually see that Ibrahim is also listening to this from the other side. And Dana and Ibrahim are now kind of out in the station bullpen area and are rehashing everything that Blaine said. Ibrahim is actually poking holes in the story saying it does not quite add up that he went after these two young girls. His thing has always been revivers. Why team up with this professor, especially when he seemed to actually love Rose? May walks in and asks, is Blaine in there? Dana says she's a better investigator than most of her deputies, actually. And she does ask her to find out where Blaine's money actually went.
Do we know at this point why the professor had anything to do? Because he has a point there. Why would he just hook up with some random professor?
I think he does have a point there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know that adds up yet. Like,
that was my one question when episode 8 ended. It was like it actually gave me a few more questions about how Aaron is involved with everything all said and done. But yeah,
you are asking the right question.
And thank you. Okay, let's move on.
Asking the right question.
Yeah, I mean, there's unbelievably incriminating evidence because we know that who killed Rose killed Em, right? There's too many ties to them. They're connected. That's unequivocal, right? Like we know that. But now seeing that body is her body and the ties that Blaine has to both, right? He was there on the bridge on Revival Night, and then her body was found on his lot is pretty incriminating. And so how does that tie to Aaron? We don't know, because we know Aaron was also there. We know Aaron's working with someone. We know at the end of 8, when Aaron picks up Rose's body, and he's the one who picked her up, and he's the one who struggled with her at the car, that he's calling someone and saying, I'll meet you at Moore Creek, which we know is where she's murdered and where Em is murdered. So yeah, I mean, those things have to come together, right? They don't quite come together yet. So
we are back at Riverside, and Rhodey is being allowed in to see Em. He says he was told, that you were sick and he wanted to make sure you were okay. And we reversed the shot back on Em, and she has Ghost Patty over her shoulder now. And Mama Cypress asks, oh, so this is the boy you've been seeing? And he tells her they threatened his family. They tortured him. He was not strong enough. He's sorry. Patty says if there's one thing she learned, it's that men will do anything to get you back, to take them back. As soon as you do, though, they'll break your heart over and over again. Rhodey asks out loud if she can forgive him, and Patty, still in her ear, says, you don't need him, Lovebug. You have me now. So fun Ghost Patty is now becoming a little menacing Ghost Patty. Em finally stands up and walks toward him. She reaches her hands out and holds the sides of his face, and after a beat of staring at him, actually snaps his neck. He falls to the ground. A moment or so later, Rhodey kind of heals and pops up and screams to let him out, and the guard opens the door for him, and she whispers to herself, please don't leave me again. Kale and Carla are walking through the hall outside again, and a group of guards cross paths with them. A guard tells Kale that there's a problem in security. Some old reviver-loving townie is causing trouble. Kale says to deal with it, and the guard says in passing that the sooner we get them to Ember Point, the better. This pings Carla's radar, of course. She asks about Ember Point, and Kale says that is above the doctor's pay grade. And in the same facility, we now see Mayor Dillish talking to Diane. She's pleading to get her out of there, that this place is awful. They're doing something awful to some of the other revivers. All day long, it's just screaming. And Ken actually assures her that it will not happen to her because he made a deal, and admits here that he gave up M. Cypress as a reviver. And this actually affects Diane. She's like, she's just a child, and she tells him that she did overhear the general talking and says she thinks they want to move us all. And Dillish said he did see a fleet of transport trucks and containers outside piecing some of this together. Back at the station, Wayne says if Ibrahim is right, then anybody could have killed Rose. Dana says it's not that Blaine is the main suspect. We still need to be sure. And that's when Dillish walks in, and this time takes a punch from a Cypress, but it is Dana Cypress this time. Many a Dillish and Cypress punches exchanged in this season. But she says, that's for narking on my sister. And Ken says, you know what, I deserve that. He tells them that the general is who has Martha, and that Diane told him they're getting ready to move all the revivers out somewhere. He says we got to bust them all out, or we're never going to see them again as we go to break.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. Liz?
Yeah, Liz, you look like you were going to say like a dozen things in between that. Yeah.
It's mostly just why over and over.
I mean, there's reasons why for all of this.
First of all, poor Em has got her intrusive thoughts next to her in this thing, dealing with some demons. Her guilt, obviously, is pretty strong here, and it's affecting her. It was funny. I saw, and my wife mentioned it too. She thought this too. You forget that revivers can heal. So when she breaks Rhodey's neck for a second, I saw multiple people like, oh my God. And then he kind of comes back to life, which I think is a wonderful moment.
Yes, I completely forgot, and I yelled. But I feel like that was good, like revenge for all those people in the comments who were mad at Rhodey.
A lot of people were mad.
So I feel like that was good.
Pretty pissed.
He gets a good neck breaking, and we move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Rhodey's not equipped for all this, Like, I think Rhodey and Ibrahim both are two gentle souls thrown into a very chaotic environment. And I think that they're not necessarily always going to make the right decisions when it comes to those types of things. I don't think they're equipped to handle all this. And that can lead to some issues. But yes, like Patty is very much, this is not, the friendly ghost. This isn't a Casper thing. This is a very deep-seated trauma induced in her guilt. It's saying a lot of things that have been weighing on him for a long time. And obviously that's only going to get worse in the upcoming scenes here. But we're, very much here, we're setting up the main plot point here which is they're going to try to move the revivers. So it's like as soon as they've got them all, they're getting in and really all that the general's trying to do is gather up all the revivers and get them the hell out of Wausau to somewhere we don't know, to a place called Ember Point. What does that mean? We don't know. And so that's really what this has become. It's not about, and they're just using the quote unquote camp that was set up by Wayne, but it's just to get them, control them. As she's saying, that the conversation with Carla is very pointed and necessary because it's, look, I just need to get the revivers, control them, and transport them. That's my job. That's all she's there to do. And, M is different. And that's going to continue to prove itself in a variety of ways as to a number of things about her that are obviously very different.
One thing I think is interesting in this episode is Wayne. I think it's another great Wayne episode in general, but I think it's interesting how calm he tends to be. I mean, especially when Dilish comes in and it's Dana that punches him. Wayne's kind of going to go after him, but he's not Yelly McYellerston, here like he has been in a lot of things. And then I think that's largely because number one, he's sort of been beaten to a pulp a little bit emotionally, but also he's kind of like, especially in the interrogation scene, there's a level of control. He knows this, right? Like this is something he can control. He knows it's an investigation. I mean, he can do an investigation and he can, figure out these plans. So you're sort of seeing a different version of Wayne, which I think is interesting in this case. And, that's going to lead to something happening. We'll get there.
I've had a boss or two like that where they're kind of emotional terrorists and they're screamers, yellers, and then like under pressure, suddenly they're the calm, collective one that like if it's in their wheelhouse, they know exactly what they're doing.
It was a little bit scarier for him to be him to be calm. I was like, what is he doing?
Yeah.
It's also just narratively, we're structuring this because of a bombshell that's going to happen at the end of the episode. So in order to do that, you kind of have to get them to a better place so that you can tear them back down, right? Like that's just narrative structure and storytelling. So, and then you can beat them up appropriately and to set up the stakes for what's going to happen in 10. So we want to feel Dana and Wayne kind of starting to come together a little bit. And seeing their parallels. And Mel does this great thing where like David H. Elliott, Wayne will say like, let's go save the people we love. And then there's a great cutaway to Mel, who's just like proud of her dad in that moment. And you can see it that she's proud of him. And and I love his, I messed up. I did this. That's on me, but I'm going to fix this. Which is very similar to what she said to Jesse in episode 8 at the end. I messed up. I didn't do this. I can fix this. Right. And you're seeing these parallels and, her anger that gets ahead of her the same way that Wayne's does when she's punching Dilish. There's just her and Wayne are not that far apart. And there's a ton of similarities. We've been doing this throughout the whole season, but we're also trying to bring them together so that we can mess them all up by the time we get to the end. Also, lastly, I forgot the thing I did want to mention too, which was in that interrogation with Blaine is we're learning that Blaine's father abused him flat out. Like the stigmata boy, right, was not some kid that was chosen. Like this is a dad who we're saying put nails through his son's hands in order to get followers of their church and what was going on. I mean, and so when you think about what that means, that's fraudulent. And so his dad being a fraud, and that would then be a big reason why Blaine himself might be more triggered when someone calls him a fraud, right? I think we're getting some good info here. And again, stuff that be very excited to explore in the future. But
yeah, it was something we wanted to do to bring, when you say the word revival, right? So revival has all these implications, and we wanted to take that point of revival, like a revival tent, right? If you've ever seen a revival tent, if you've ever been or seen any of those kind of huge things, they're intense. They're usually con men basically trying to get money out of people. And so Blaine is coming from that world. It's specifically related to revival and a version of revival where he's coming in from that world. And we're finding out that his father, who was a very bombastic con man preacher, was pretty awful.
And they do that thing where they like heal people. Right?
They do.
Yeah.
Speaking in tongues, and then people falling over, and it's insane.
I do want to ask a question here as we're jumping back into the next scene, because I wrote it as Wayne, Dana, JP, the mayor, and yet to be named a mustached cop are going over a blueprint of Riverside. I know with McRae and Brent out of the picture, next cop up, does he have a name? He's the only one I have.
No, that's Fitzy.
Yeah,
that's Fitzy.
Thank you.
Yes.
Who M calls Fitzy in
she did call him Fitzy.
5,
okay, you're right.
and he's
so he
Fitzpatrick.
Was named. He's the first one I didn't have a name for. Like, I always pick up when I hear Rogers, JP, and all these people in the background. That's the first one I didn't pick up on.
Fitzpatrick.
Like, okay.
Yeah, Fitzpatrick, but they call him Fitzy.
There we go.
And yeah, local St. John actor, great. Nice. McMillan, what's his?
Yeah.
Jimmy McKinley, I believe.
Jimmy McKinley, that's right. Yeah,
Fitzy.
Great, really sweet dude.
Comedian, he's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wayne says he chose Riverside because of its tactical advantage, but does mention that the single entry point kind of heads down to the basement, which is a choke point. Wayne asked JP to check with Department of Transportation on any traffic changes, any rail and flight path changes or clearances or clearouts. And Nella calls out from the bullpen area. She's tending to Lester, who it turns out was the revival-loving townie caused the trouble. He's got some facial bruises and wounds, and she tells the police that Lester went to Riverside to check on his friend Wanda and that they had pistol whipped him and left him behind Nella's bar for the trouble. And Lester calls them all cowards and bullies hiding behind their fatigues. It's the reason he left the army, to focus on life instead of death. He says Wanda didn't even want to come back from the dead, and then he scolds the sheriff for not caring about her, caring about seniors. Lester becoming my favorite character on the show, slowly, every episode. Wayne asks Nella to take Lester to the hospital, but she actually gives him an earful herself, saying, no, this is the cost of standing up for people in this town, something Wayne couldn't be bothered to do until Martha was revealed to be one of them. And before leaving, Nella leans in to Dana and says that any revivers get free, you send them to her. She can get them out of Wausau. And something the boys teased many episodes back to you, Liz, through the old bootleg tunnels under the bar. So,
I felt very privileged to know that information.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I wish we could do a little more with, and we could have shown them at that time. But yeah, it's real. That's a real thing. And I will say, I really, really love the scene with Lester and Nella in particular. I think both of them, Peter Millard, who plays Lester, and Lynette Ware, who plays Nella, are just really wonderful. First off, they're just great people, really, really sweet actors. They care a ton about their performances and their moments. And I wish we could give both of them more moments. They're more than just that background color that kind of happens in a show when you have these side characters, that aren't necessarily affecting plot, but have impactful moments throughout that. I think it's just really, really special. And you just feel for these people that are being overlooked, and one of the aspects we talked about in the writer's room were all these random things that happen to people in town, who are revivers. So one would be, you're older, you're depending on Social Security, you die. They immediately cut off your Social Security. They're not going to give you one extra check, right? The government's very picky about that. So now Wanda has no money. So who's been taking care of Wanda? Lester. He's been helping her, which is really sweet. And then she goes missing. And he's like, what are you doing with my friend? And I wish we could have had Wanda and Lester scenes more than just the one moment with them and the jazzercise, or whatever. But just, little things like that, I think just color things in a really nice way. And then to take that to the next level, which is with Lynette, with Nella, who the first time she sees Wayne, she's encouraging him. And it's like, hey, trust your gut. Do what you need to do. And now she's finding out no, your gut's shitty. And you shouldn't have done that at all. And this is wrong. And you're a hypocrite. And I think Wayne needed someone that could dress him down, that wasn't a subordinate, that he clearly respects. Mm-hmm. And that's why it works for him. It's really, I really we had to fight to get the scene back in. We were we needed to get another scene with her because we thought it was really important, because we just didn't want her to be this random person who was giving him advice or whatever, and it wasn't really going to work that way. And to have her set that up of someone that Wayne respects, that you actually see him in a vulnerable space in episode 2, where he's talking with her. He's like, I don't know what to do. Where is Wayne going to anyone saying, I don't know what to do? He's a guy who always knows everything to do. He's a know-it-all. He's stubborn. He's all these things. But with Nella, he was vulnerable. So the one person that could dress him down on such a level, other than maybe M or Cooper, which wouldn't really work, although that'd be fun to have Cooper dress him down, was Nella. And I think she just does such a great job in setting that up, and just really love little scenes like this, that I think a lot of times people try to cut, and I think really help color the world.
Yeah.
It felt like all of us, all the things I wanted to say to Wayne.
Yeah. So That's what I was going to say. There's an uncomfortable truth here with Wayne, right? Because she is addressing this idea, which is a very common idea, right? The hard thing about empathy is that you need to have it when it doesn't directly affect you. Right. But Wayne is a person who it wasn't until after he found out that his daughter was a reviver that now he's saying, hey, let's go save him. Let's go do this. And that's great. And that's wonderful. And we appreciate that he wants to go, help them now. But it's now. Right. He didn't have the capacity, or he didn't show the capacity before to empathize with people where he wasn't directly related to them. So Nella is calling that out. We're calling that out. That's a very, unfortunately, in the world of othering in society, that's kind of a common thing. It's not until it's your sister, your mom, your whatever. And we hear this all the time. It's like, I have a daughter and I have a this. And well, it's empathy requires you to not have to feel that personal connection. You have to actually go out and you have to think of it outside of your personal connection. So, it's just an important thing.
I was snapping.
Yes, I appreciate it.
Whatever seconding that. Yeah. Now on May and Dana at a computer, May says it's true, Blaine really did give away his money. But to who? It turns out it was put up to the department as an anonymous reward initially for finding Rose's killer to the tune of $50,000. And Dana says, yeah, but they never got that money. It was pulled as soon as Jesse actually ran. And May says it was then donated to the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women Fund. And Dana tries to make that make sense. She's trying to connect dots here, but May says you cannot let him go. You have to find something to make this stick. Finish what you started. She walks out, May that is, and we see Ibrahim at a desk reading the Quran. She tells him she's taking off. She says she's a journalist. She'll take her info from any reliable source, to which Ibrahim replies, I'm a scientist. I shouldn't be looking for answers in religious texts. And she says who? The dead have risen. I'm pretty sure there are no rules. She tells him that she and Rose used to joke about whoever did die first would come back and haunt the other just to prove there's an afterlife. And Ibrahim notes, that's like Harry Houdini and his mother, and asked if May has in fact heard from her regarding Rose maybe haunting her. And May says she is not, but she's keeping her fingers crossed. And good luck to Ibrahim with his soul searching.
Yeah, it's another just really wonderful little scene there with characters that don't get to interact a lot, right? Two great actors that, have passing by a number of things and clearly would have spoken a number of times, maybe off screen, but it was just something really nice about this scene. And I thought Noelle wrote something really, really poignant and sweet here. And there's also something about, we talked about this in the writer's room, which was I'm a full-on atheist. I'm not even agnostic. I'm an atheist. And if the dead came back to life, I don't know what I'd be. I have no idea, because that would be crazy. And I would start looking anywhere to try to make sense of what that is. And so I think it is a shell-shocking moment, and what this is doing to Ibrahim, I think, is really interesting. But I love the idea of the hopefulness of what that means of the dead coming back. And then when Ibrahim asks May Tao, have you heard from her yet? And just the way that Catherine delivers that of just not yet, and it just kind of pulls at your heart. And then that's that atheist side too. That's just probably not. I just think it's a really, really great scene. And then your soul searching, I just think is a great button on ending that with him. And these are the types of things that I wish in a perfect world, I'd want to go back and look at all these different characters that I love, and find way to we never saw, I haven't seen a Lester and Ibrahim scene. That'd be really fun, and I haven't seen, there's so many variations that could be fun. And, what Brent and McCrae? I haven't seen a lot of Brent and McCrae. There's a couple moments, but what would that be like? That would have been really fun. There's just a lot of fun stuff that would have been interesting, but you don't get to do it 42 and a half minutes. Damn you.
No, it's good. Again, these are ones you fight for, like you said, even with Nella coming back around. It's always welcome to see these supporting characters play off each other, especially when they've been, like you said, in the same circles for several things now. We just haven't seen them play off each other. So it was a very good scene. We are now on Dana and some officers doing a full sweep of Blaine's place. Fitzy actually says he doesn't even know what they're looking for there, and all he's finding are plans for them to storm Riverside. And besides, that doesn't look like too hot of a plan if you ask him. Dana says there's got to be something here about Rose or her sister. She then lifts up a tote crate with a padlock on it and manages to crack the lock off of it. She opens it and pulls up a camcorder and a handful of labeled discs. We then cut to her playing one on a TV in front of Wayne, May, Dillish, and Ibrahim at the station. It is indeed the video of Wanda being attacked, killed by something. These sounds, though, are different. The light is so bright it actually distorts a bit of what we see, but it definitely horrifies the group watching, and Dana cuts it off. Ken says, so they found a way to kill revivers, and Dana says it seems like the light is maybe what killed her, at which point Ibrahim suggests that he's actually seen the source of light. It is a creature, but it does not kill. You know, they're asking like, what, like an alien, Wayne says? And he goes, no, Cooper had the same story as Ibrahim about Jordan. May says maybe they're two different things. Ibrahim says he's sorry he does not have more answers for them because, again, he's still struggling to put anything together based on all the things he's seen. Wayne and Dana explain that they have two problems now and a ticking clock, and Blaine wants to storm Riverside and use that thing to kill the revivers. Ibrahim says he calls it an angel, but he says he lost it. And JP walks in with news on what the general is up to. It looks like tomorrow the DOT is shutting down a stretch of highway, and that Kale is going to truck those revivers to a rail line, then train them to a dock off Lake Superior. And a little bit of back and forth about how they're going to stop her. And Dana says, well, we force her into a new plan, one that works for us, as we go to another break.
That was a badass line.
Yeah, Dana being the big brain there. I love it.
Right.
Yeah, lots of stuff there.
So
I'm trying to think of like what's
the light was distorting, so we still don't have a clear view of exactly what happened to Wanda, which was by design, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, look, you see, she's like Raiders of the Lost Ark shriveled, you know, at the end of this, you know, so like she's very much dead. And we know that is not what happened to Jordan or Jesse. Like that's pretty. So for some reason, these creatures, whatever they are killing one reviver and then peacefully combining and moving on with other revivers. And so that's the thing. And then, but what it means though, is exactly what Wayne is saying, is that Blaine basically has a weapon. But what we know now is that his weapon, his angel, then just left. So now he's got to try to get another weapon. But how did he do that? How did he get a weapon? What does that mean? You know, what is all this going to become? And that's part of the goals of this. But either way, Blaine has figured out a way to kill revivers. So that's the wrong person to have a way to kill revivers. And he has plans, and those plans were storming Riverside. So something with that in there, presumably, I think you could, if you imagine that Jesse had not combined with the quote unquote angel that was in the garage at Blaine's, then what would Blaine have done with that angel had that not happened? And now he also seems to be in some type of a new plan. You know, that's moving forward. So if all that's tracking.
I can't speak for Liz, but so far.
My brain board is rewiring.
Not to tangent, a couple episodes back when she had frozen and we said something to her and she was in her brain, she did tell me off air, she goes, no, because you guys said bear and then Chicago, and I was like, Chicago bear? That's what she was putting together in her brain. So
I paused on it. I was like, is there a connection? Admit
that's where her brain was going. She was murder boarding. There's a connection to Chicago and bears. Just typical Chicago people. The bears. But yeah, we're back on M in her cell. Her back is turned to the door, and there's a reason I note that. Patty is still lingering in there as well, and she has another visitor. It is Nithya Weimer, and Nithya says that she's just here to talk. Patty scolds her daughter for having an affair with a married man whose wife was going through cancer treatment. Martha, I raised you better than that. Emma's in tears now, just saying, I'm so sorry, kind of crying through the words here. Nithya asks if she can tell her what's going on around her. Patty continues. She's getting just angrier and angrier as she's speaking to him. Maybe that's why you were murdered as punishment for ruining the home life of a sick, fragile woman. Nithya says, Patricia Cypress or Patty, is your mother in the room? Because again, Em had kind of mumbled mom. Em asks if she can see her too. And she tells him that you are experiencing kind of a break with reality. It's likely stress-induced, but I am here to help. Em asks if she knows what happened to her mom. Nithya does not, but she asks if she'd like to tell her. Em actually does begin to explain that night, again, through tears, and while her mother is just in her face telling her to stop, Em says they were at Nella's bar. Some townie was giving Dana grief about the Black Deer case, and my mom called my dad because she didn't like to drive in the wintertime, but he did not pick up. So Em ended up being the one that drove them home. And again, this is Patty just yelling in her face that this is a family story, not to be shared, not to be told. She says a deer just came out of nowhere and it was all her fault. We see Patty dripping blood from her mouth in the face of Em, and Em's clanking her head into the cell, and the guard walks in and says time's up. Nithya says she's clearly having an episode, she's in a fragile state, and the guard just shoves her straight away, and her cap flying off her head, and says follow directions. He approaches the cell, and Em grabs his gun, puts it to his head. Nithya tells her to stop. This is not you. This is only going to make things worse. Please let him go. Em does take a beat, but does release him, drops the gun too, and both Nithya and the guard walk back out of the room, and Em says, see, Mom, I am the Martha you raised. I did the right thing. At that point, she looks around and notices that Patty is no longer around in a Fight Clubby vein. Tyler's gone. But in another part of Riverside, Mayor Dillish runs up to a fence gate and yells, hey, he needs to see General Kale. He says an armed local militia is going to attack the place tomorrow, and they have a way to kill revivers. And the guards start to kind of grab him and back him away from everything. This is now cuts to Dr. Carla outside of the facility. She's getting in her vehicle, looking distraught, and Ibrahim, in another cool scene for him, is in her backseat, scaring her when she notices him. He asks her to tell him when the general is moving the revivers and where. She says she heard about Blaine's plan, so they're moving up the timeline to Sunrise. So she says this is not what they came here to do, and Ibrahim's like, there's still time to make this right. That's when he pulls out a bag full of vials and tells her to give them these doses. And she asks what's in them, and he says, it's just water.
That's so badass. He's so badass here. Like, I love Andy for this so much. The first time I saw these two scenes, this scene in particular, I clapped. I literally clapped. I was like, this worked so great. And because we've just heard the water's so special, the water this. For him to just be like, it's just water. It's just, and he delivers it. And I showed it to him. We were in the color session, because he hadn't seen the episodes yet, and he had come by to visit us. And I was like, can we just show the scene to Andy real quick? I just want him to see how fucking cool he is right now. And he was like, oh my God, this is so cool. It was great. It made me so happy. And then the opposite of that, although it made me happy, but in a very different way, where I cried the first time I saw this yelling match, this emotional, cathartic release of Patty and M. I mean, it's a lot. What Romy M is doing here is just unbelievable. I think it's so heartbreaking. And, if you think about, obviously there's this guilt very clearly that she has for her mother's death, because she was driving the car and she hit a deer and her mom died and she survived. And when you think about that, and then she has brittle bone disease, so she's going to go through horrible rehab because of that. This is 2008, or excuse me, this was 2005, 2006 when this was happening. So she, the opioid epidemic is at its peak, so that's going to lead to her drug abuse, like all these things that are going to kind of start from this moment. And Luke and I talked about this, in the writer's room, that for the Cypress family, the real revival day is the day that Patty died, because everybody changed from that point forward. A different version of them came back. They look the same. They appear the same to everyone, but something is different. Something is off. And they're all kind of these zombified versions of themselves, if you will. And then to add to that, M then goes to therapy, in episode 4. And at that point, she's meeting for the first time, face to face, Nithya. And then realizing this is actually a good person. And so that guilt that she's already has for different things is now going to go in overdrive and lead into guilt with Nithya, and realizing, because everything Patty's saying is M saying it to herself, in this episode. So, to see that and to see what she's done, I led to this. Aaron's now dead, and Aaron might deserve to be dead, but Nithya doesn't deserve this, right? And so her guilt's just in overdrive at this point. And her and LJ, and I love the way that Samir framed them. And but the way he did that, I just think is so impactful. It's so emotionally wrought. And I was so worried they're going to say, we have to redo this because you can't hear it clearly, but I don't want to hear it clearly. To me, the emotion of it, you also have to hear exactly what's going on. To me, it's just the emotion of my mom died. I feel responsible. The details don't matter. What matters is her guilt that is just firing out of her in this moment. And I think it's her best moment of the season, just to reach that level and not feel melodramatic, and just to break your heart that way. I just think that Romy did something really special, and LJ too. Just the two of them together just do something really, really special there.
There's also a detail hidden in there that I want to point out that I think it's important, because we had this scene in 8 and we had to cut it. Just didn't fit, just didn't work. But there was a little montage about that night. It wasn't quite the full crash, but it was sort of the before the crash. And that is that the crash happened because Dana had called. She had gotten in a fight at Nella's over the Blackdeer case. So one thing that you don't quite get from 8 is that Blackdeer getting away in that moment of supposed failure on Dana's part directly led to this crash. And so we're seeing now that all the Cypresses, Wayne, Dana, and M, have some sort of, we haven't seen Wayne yet, so we'll get to that, but they have guilt. They have guilt over this moment, and we're piecing out why. And Dana does, because they had to go pick Dana up. because of this thing that she did, and she was kind of a mess. It's just sort of mentioned in there really briefly by M, but I did want to kind of point it out because I do think that as we follow up onto events here, it does kind of come into play.
Yeah, that's a great point. What we're really kind of talking about, like the revival day of it and what led to the quote unquote, Cyprus revival day, as I was alluding to, and then what really led to that, which is the Blacktear case. But yeah, she says, got to fight with a townie at a bar. I wish we could have shot all that and done it, but I think, if we're lucky to have a season 2, I think there's a decent chance that we flash back to that again.
Mm-hmm.
Dana and Ibrahim are now at the station. She hands him a gun and says JP and company are going to need all the help they can get. Always aim for center mass. Dana says, you saved my sister's life. That may not be why you came here, but that's what matters most. And before they can have a moment with each other, Wayne walks in with a duffel bag saying this is all the pyro they have. They're going to set it off, in the night so that Kel thinks the militia's attacking from one side, during which some of them will enter from the other side. Wayne admits he knows he blew it when it came to protecting this town and he's owning it, but this is his chance to make it right. And in the woods at Moore Creek, a few armed militia men are keeping watch, 2 men and a woman, in fact, when the water begins to bubble up. One of them says, look, another angel, just like Blaine said, and they grab some chains and rope and get ready when a rifle shot rings out and drops one of them. We see a gunman lying on the ground in full hunter camo gear, reloading said rifle, and the militia trio start to scramble when the second shot drops the woman. We see her bullet-holed forehead fall into frame and hear the third one seemingly running and getting shot as well as we go to break again here.
Quick little thing just to note that's not a big deal for everyone, but the woman who falls is Cara Wooden, who plays Clarice. Clarice is the bigoted woman at the bar that M gets in a fight with, who's watching the news. And it's just another little, if you're paying attention, that you're getting indoctrinated by this world of she was hating revivers. So if you're hating revivers and you're anti-reviver spewing shit, then Blaine will start to infiltrate these people and how he's growing his quote unquote flock. And so to me, it made a lot of sense. And to us, it made a lot of sense she would become part of that flock. And then she dies as a result of it, so she has her own little story arc as well within this.
Very nice. Ibrahim enters Blaine's holding room and actually hands him a sandwich. Blaine assumed that everybody left him there for the night, and Ibrahim removes his coat, sets it on the table, and says he has a few more questions for him. He tries retracing the series of events with him. Lester called him to tow a car. M was on the bridge. He saw the light. He went back, and there was no longer a light, and no longer an M either. Ibrahim admits, he's been studying the water, and it does have some kind of healing properties. And during this, Blaine notices the gun in the jacket on the table and begins to kind of inch toward it as the doctor is pacing around, continuing. And if M's connected to the water, that means she was murdered. That means M's death is what caused Revival Day. And at this point, we do see Blaine hovering over the back of him now, and he does point the gun to his head. He says he's sorry. It's for the greater good. And they now exit the room, hostage situation style. They exit, and Blaine says he's getting out of here and will shoot him if anyone tries to stop him, as you hear some cops in the background saying whoa, what are you doing?
Real quick anecdote here is that Ibrahim is a scientist, and a scientist will hypothesize, right? So I don't believe that Ibrahim knows for certain that M's death caused Revival Day. I believe that this is just his brain going hyperactive in this moment, and he's theorizing. And I think because he's saying, wait a second, you were on the bridge, you saw her on the bridge. Then when you came back, she was gone. And then we now know where she died, and we know it's tied to that water, and that water's special. And I think she's special. So the timing of when she was out there would time well to her being there at the time of Revival Day happening, right? So the light goes up. He saw the light after, but she was no longer on the bridge. And we know that Aaron took her into the woods after that. So start to piece this together. And I think he's just wait a second, could that be what happened? I don't think he's saying definitively, because I don't think he knows anything definitively, but this is his hypothesis at this time.
He's Charlie Day,
he was connected.
Charlie Day, me. Yes.
Yeah.
Liz knows.
I get it.
Yeah. We have a big sequence of things here at Riverside. We are now on Rhodey in his cell. A guard opens up and says they are taking medicine early today for a little field trip. Rhodey refuses, but we do see Carla putting the good stuff into the needle. The guard gets real shitty with Rhodey, but Carla says, let me talk to him. She gets close to him, kneels down, lets him know, this will feel a little different, but it's okay. It's the only way to save M. She whispers, help is coming. Spread the word. and injects Rhodey. We are now outside the facility, and they are marching them out single file. Rhodey's whispering to Diane. She's whispering to the reviver in front of her. When some crazy pops and cracks and flashes of light do go off on the other side of the building, the dynamite, the pyros being set off, a guard radios that they're under attack, approaching from the northeast side. And once inside the container truck, Rhodey and the others do attack the guards and kind of take over. The driver up front hears this, but before he can react, Dana is in the passenger side window with a gun to him, saying if he so much as twitches, his skull is going to have a skylight. That's a fun line. Ken and Wayne put what looks like the club, that steering wheel lock from the 90s, on the double doors. And now in M's room inside, we do see Tyler enter. She asks who he is, and he says, your sister sent me. We have to go now. The guards are coming. And he uses his key card to open the cell. M is hesitant to leave at first, but does run out behind him. Diane runs out to Ken, and Rhodey is out too. Wayne asked him where M is. Rhodey says she's still inside. Dana says we cannot leave her. Ken says there is no time and tries to flee. Wayne says you're the whole reason she's in there. And Ken, without even hesitating, just pulls a gun on him and says, you're the one who called the governor, had my wife locked up, sent all this stuff in motion. Diane pushes his arm down. Dana asks them to stop. They were once best friends, and you're fighting when we need each other most. Ken says, why don't you ask your homewrecker father? Ask him where he was the night you didn't answer the phone call from Patty. And as some have posited online, and myself included, based on a very pointed line from Diane when we first met her, that the fallout from Ken and Wayne was indeed because of an affair. I will admit, while I thought that is what happened based on the fallout, I did not think, however, that it happened pre-Patty's death. I had always assumed prior that it had happened like in the trauma bonding way, when like the brother consoles the dead wife and then they hook up. I thought that's what happened, but no, turns out that Wayne and M and all of them just like to fuck over cancer patients.
That's the theme of the whole show, I think.
I will say there's a lot about the Wayne and Patty world that we don't know. Right.
Yeah.
So we don't know what their relationship was, what was going on. There's a lot of history there. So yes. So that being said, is like, yes, it seems that way, but I would say there's more to the story. But
yeah. And Patty's cancer, just for clarity, Patty's cancer was gone at that time, right? So she had cancer prior to M's birth, and then
Wayne tries. We'll get to it later. He tries to explain that they were separating, but that Dana didn't.
Yeah,
we'll get to that shortly.
Yeah.
There's just something sexy about cancer to this family, and we'll just leave it at that. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Well, at this point, everybody's pissed at everybody. Deputy Rogers runs out and says they have to move now. Wayne says, get the revivers to Nellis. Rhodey says he can help, but Dana actually sends him, says no help with the revivers. They all run. And then you hear clear from behind the doors, and the doors do explode open. And General Kale, in a kind of badass, motion, walks out, surveys the damage, and we cut to break again here.
I will say, I do wish, yes, it is the club that they use. Originally, we had written this thing that like they kept getting the club because like the club was given out to a bunch of police stations back in the day, right. And they would give them out for people to help for security reasons. And so the idea was that they had them and they were giving them away to people. And it just kind of became this anecdote that just didn't matter, but then it was going to pay off here when they were using the club. But anyway, that didn't get to happen. But
it made me chuckle. I couldn't remember what it was called at first. I was like, Alicia, what was that thing? The steering wheel lock.
Yeah. They are secure though. Like you cannot knock those things off. Although our doors there just had little magnets, and then the doors would, so every time they bang the doors, the front handle would just fall off in film shooting life. So that was a tricky thing. But other than that was fun there.
Coming back, we are now somewhere in the woods. Wayne and Dana get in the car, and he tries to explain that he and Patty were separating, as I'd mentioned. Dana cuts him off and says, I do not want to hear any of this. A phone rings. Wayne looks at it and ignores it. And Dana's now crying. She's like, why didn't you just tell her? What would that have done? He says, I spent and then Dana says, I spent the 2 last years beating myself up over Mom. M spent the last couple of years blaming herself for the accident. She kind of stops herself. The phone rings again. She asks who keeps calling, and he says it's Lester. And if I may interject, Lester, last time he was trying to get a hold of Wayne, gave him some very important information. So ignoring Lester seems like a bad move at this point.
He also was the horse. He was the horse. He's
nothing
too,
but
right?
information.
Well, the horse though at the time felt innocuous, but ended up being important. So
exactly.
He literally last time he talked to him, he was like, you don't listen to old people. And then he was like, I'm not going to listen to that old guy. Didn't learn nothing, actually.
Ageism.
I mean, when is Wayne learning something? I mean, let's like really,
We've all been a little ageist in our lives. We don't trust these old timers to do anything but greet us at Walmart, yet they're running the country.
Everyone should see that Golden Girls episode where Dorothy gets treated badly by the doctor because she's old. Okay.
Yeah.
That changed my whole life. Everyone go watch it.
And now we're all the age of the Golden Girls. She says, Dana, that she's not sure who they can trust at this point with Kale monitoring comms. They need a plan. Lester calls once more, and Dana says, I'll just answer it even if the calls are being tracked. And Lester says, once again, with all the information that is needed, because he's on top of things, he has some more trespassers on his properties, armed people. Wayne says, call the station. He goes, no, I did. And he tells Wayne, they keep saying something about the girl. They have the girl. And then Lester gives his location, which is near the church. And Wayne says they are heading that way. And in a short final scene here, we are now inside of said church. And M is being escorted in by Tyler. M sees Ibrahim just sitting in one of the pews. And she is kind of out of sorts and goes, what is going on? And all you hear from the front of the church is, behold, Blaine yelling. And he says, Martha Cypress, you are the mother of Babylon, the serpent who opened the gates of hell. And I aim to send you right back. And we cut to credits to the sounds of Lucifer, a posthumous release by Charles Bradley that ends episode 9.
Such a good song. I can't believe you got that song. Such a badass song. Yeah, it was, Luke always talked about, I mean, in the comics, there's a Mother of Babylon thing, and Luke was who named this episode. And I think it's pretty rad. And I think it's, realizing, so if Ibrahim's theory is correct, and he's realizing that, wait a second, so M might actually be more important. Is there something to what is going on here for him to have a special interest in M beyond what may have happened prior with M? Without saying anything there. So it's funny. I just said, I don't spoil anything. And then I almost kind of did. But I didn't because there's things there. But yeah, crazy shit.
Yeah, rewind to one of my favorite scenes in the entire show, if not my favorite. Well, it's hard to say, honestly, but I don't know if we started talking about Lester, so I don't know if you mentioned It Should Have Been You, which has got to be one of the biggest knife to the chest that I've seen just between Dana and Wayne. Like I said before, now we know that Wayne is carrying this guilt too, that there's an element in the crash that Wayne was part of and having an affair at the time. And Dana's finding this out, which is, never, ever easy to find out that regardless of whether you're separated or not, that your parent lied or something like that, was cheating. It's just not easy, because you have this vision in your head of what things are. And then when you find out that they aren't that way, that's going to break you. And just the way it's Melon and David in that scene, it's just so heartbreaking. It's just, they say so much with so little. And there's really not much to that conversation. It's very brief, but it carries so much weight and so much emotion. And every time I see it, it just kills me. Just that moment, It Should Have Been You, is just, it's heavy. It's heavy, man.
Speaking of that, is there going to be a flashback, maybe if we get a season 2, of what the fuck the deer's problem was? Like, where is that deer coming from? Why did it target their mom? So on.
I'm just going to take it. What we're going to do is we're going to take the scene in Tommy Boy where they hit the deer and then I'm just going to license that footage. And then but we'll make it, but we'll cut back between who's actually driving of them driving and the deer's in the backseat doing the thing. Yeah. So just in summary, anybody's trying to piece this all together because it's all there, but just in summary, everyone, if Lane had only answered the phone, maybe this Patty wouldn't have died. If Dana had not messed up the Blackdeer case and gotten a fight at the bar, then maybe Patty would have died. And with M, who was driving at the time of the accident, maybe Patty wouldn't have died. So all of them, we can, again, that's all there. And then now Ibrahim has inadvertently kind of messed up. Like, he's not thinking about this gun, right? That's there. He's focused on, wait a second, I think I'm putting this together. Like you saw this at this time. And that's given, I think, Blaine some pretty interesting information for him to piece stuff together, because at the beginning, also someone at the very beginning of the episode, they were confused. Like, how does Blaine know all this? And it's like, he's reading his notebook. He does say his notebook. He's holding his notebook. That's what he's bringing to him.
Shoves it on his chest in the scene.
Yeah. So he's doing that. So he's got a good amount of information from Ibrahim already. And now I think this last piece of information, this theory that Ibrahim has, is that last piece of information for Blaine to Mother of Babylon.
Seems more than willing to end her if it solves all those problems.
Yep.
And what does Mother of Babylon mean, Luke? Because I think it's worth mentioning too.
Yeah. The Mother of Babylon is effectively in the Bible. It's, Babylon being the city that was corrupt. They basically, God needed to destroy because it had gotten so corrupt, and the belief that, if you follow dispensationalism, which is sort of an apocalypse mentality, that the world has become Babylon and that Satan will send essentially his wife, someone to come and take over
Yeah. It's basically like, hell's opened up in a way, and that this is started from someone. And then and first off, it's all bullshit. This is all just like silly Bible shit.
But stuff.
But there is could the mother be the mother of the Antichrist? There's like a whole thing there too, and some of that and what plays into all of it. But it's like kind of like thinking that like she's the head of the snake in some way, shape, or form of these revivers. So
I mean, it makes sense if you're Blaine.
Totally. Yeah. This all connects. I mean, think about a dad who's like stabbing his son with nails to say that, okay, you're a Stigmata boy. And he believes, but keep in mind, he's defending his father in that interrogation, right? He's saying, no. I know that was bullshit, but he was getting me ready. He needed me to know that this was going to come to me. Like, he really believes that he was chosen and that this is his time, that his dad has prophesized these things to happen. And because this is what happens all the time. Like, there are scriptures that are basically what's happening in revival without actually being that, because you appropriate these things to make sense in our head.
Yeah.
The dead will rise and the angels and the demons will walk the earth and one will come to you and anointed, whatever, bullshit, like all this. And then if you're believing this stuff, then when something like this happens, it now becomes the answers to these quote unquote prophecies, even though you're just appropriating them based on your agenda and your upbringing, right? And that is so much of what religion does to people, is it forces you to, like, here's this belief, and then something happens and they try to reappropriate that and say, see, that's proof that this was what was there. And it's a crazy thing. And we'll get into more of that in 10 with Blaine as well.
What if this is how you find out I'm like a huge evangelist?
I can't say it.
The chance that if you could say the word evangelical, then maybe I would have believed you.
Evangestical.
Yeah, the vaguely worded prophecies are the same thing that, like with a horoscope, it's vaguely worded enough that you could make it fit your.
Exactly.
Yeah, there was a specific verse, and I wish I could pull it up, but we talked about even using it in Revelations that talked about these angels coming to earth using water in some way. I can't remember exactly what it was. Like, if you read the whole chapter and verse, we were like, oh, this is basically what Blaine thinks this is to a T. And that's the whole thing. I mean, end times theology. I don't know if anybody remembers the good old days of Left Behind fandom, but it's crazy, right? Like, it's like D&D level lore that people have come up with. Most of it's not in the Bible even. Most of it was made up in the 20s and 30s to basically scare the shit out of people.
It works.
And it's all, and it's like based on like Paradise Lost and all this other stuff. But there are certain sects of the modern church that have sort of built their religion around end times theology. I mean, the entire political landscape of the world is partly involved in this. So it's scary to us in general because it is,
Plus normies.
We won't go there, but it's like there's too many points and details that people can take and draw from and create their own version of what's going to happen. And it's all this just anticipatory thing of like, this is going to happen and our God is a vengeful God and all this, and we have to basically do something. So, that's the thing. Blaine's thought process, all of this it's grounded in reality and it's scary. I mean, it is legitimately scary to me, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Also, was everything you just said was why it was so. I had goosebumps for like the last 25% of this episode, because getting to watch like a little revolution happen gave me feelings.
People actually fighting back in this country against that kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
We shall see. But no, we're set up. I mean, I will say, for those that have made it this far in our podcast, I will say that there's a lot. We know there's a lot to wrap up in 10. We're very aware of that. And my girlfriend promises that she thinks they all were wrapped up. So that's an unbiased opinion.
She's satisfied with the answers. Now, I do have a question. Much like sometimes I give you a few extra minutes on the pilot. Are you still at 42 and a half in episode 10, or did they give you an extra minute or two?
We are still at 42 time, although there was a possibility of going longer, but we didn't need to. We actually, we got, it is, a lot happens though.
It's jam-packed.
But
it's quick.
It is jam-packed, but I'm having just rewatched it again, I'm very, very proud of 10. Love 9 as well. And, 9 was great.
You guys have been on, again, there's not been a dud in the mix, don't get me wrong, but once you said 6 was kind of a repilot of sorts, 6 onward, you guys have just been... It's going, it's moving, it's breakneck in cases, but not like at the expense of plot. You're still answering things. And if you can't answer things, some Redditor will call you out on it, then you'll fight back. And No, say no. It was here in episode 4, minute 32. Asshole.
It's there. Yeah, but a lot is coming. Yeah. A lot is coming. And I mean, I said this on Twitter, but like in the room when we were doing the mix, 4 different people were crying in episode 10, and including like a dude who's like, I never cry, and whatever. And he was like crying. One of the sound engineers. And so I mean, it's a thing. There's a lot going on. But yeah.
I'm trying to prepare myself for the emotional fallout that we'll get, but that's all I'll say.
Yeah.
I'm scared.
Well, I think both of us are thinking, like, does that mean death or reunitings or disappearings? We'll see. It could be some combo thereof. But yeah, I can't believe we have made it already we're at the end of the penultimate episode, ready for the season finale next week. So yeah, these have been awesome. Episode 9 was killer. I was a fan.
It's one of my favorites.
I believe in you guys. I do believe you're going to wrap it up. You have the stages set, it seems like, for everybody that we are supposed to be concerned with and where they're at. So excited to see it unfold here.
Do you have theories? Do you guys have theories?
No, I think everyone's moving to Chicago to become a Chicago Bear football player. So that's my theory.
I will say,
how did you get it right? How did you get it right? You figured it all out.
Yeah. One of the things that excites me is that, and look, it's a small sample size. Don't get me wrong. I'm very aware that it's an anecdotal sample size, but I have not seen a single person guess right yet. Not a single part. I have not seen a correct guess. And the guesses that I have seen, and I don't want to say them because I don't want, but they're hilarious.
You're talking about just the way the season ends? Just the way the season ends,
yes. Okay. I'm very excited because there was a world where I was like, did we pull it off? Right? Like, that's the big thing. And I am pretty happy to say, as far as I know, as far as I can tell, nobody got it.
Martha turns into a lobster boy. No?
Yeah.
Yeah, lobster boy. Yes.
I think if I was watching this in week to week or anything in a different capacity that I'm doing, I'm truly living in this because of the way that we're doing the recaps, where I'm not thinking too hard ahead, and I think I'm enjoying it more because of that. So I truly don't have because I've read the comics, and I do know where they go, and I know where you guys have deviated. So I truly don't have a prediction. So I'm as excited as anybody to see it. Again, we don't. I said at the end of last episode, we don't jump ahead. We watch these the week of release, like everybody else is doing. So we were kind of live with the reactions and everything else. So I'm enjoying doing that. It's like the way I wish people consume stuff more, not just for consumption, but for enjoyment.
Yeah, I watched a podcast of people recapping 9, and then at the beginning of the podcast, this dude was like, he's like, well, I know who it is. I know. And he said, I know with 100% certainty who the killer is. And I was like, oh my goodness. So then I quickly just like fast forward to the end. I'm like, he's like, I'll say it at the end. And I get there. It's like, okay, all right. So this person's probably figured it out. Shit, And I get there and he's completely wrong. He's completely wrong. And it made me so happy.
And it's on the internet forever.
What's so fun is, and we'll talk about this in 10, obviously, in much more detail, and before we wrap here. But I will say, what's fun is we've deliberately done things to make people, like, we have baited hooks that people are biting, and it makes me so happy that they're biting them. Like, I was like, is anyone really going to bite this hook? Is this actually going to happen? And they are, and they're just running with it, and that makes me so happy. But like TV Time and TV Track and different message boards and Reddit and all this stuff, and comments and everything. Yeah, I have not seen. I also have not seen someone say what is actually going to happen in episode 10, which is pretty. I mean, that like, regardless of what people think of the episode, the fact that we're here and we've gotten this far, and I have not seen. There's not like a thread. Like, there were people who figured out Brent, which I knew was kind of possible. That's the reason why that scene of Brent in the car happens before you do the reveal, because it's like, it's okay. Like, if you're there, it's not like this is the end of the world.
A lot of people grabbed it the prior episodes when she first pats him.
And that's great. That's great. That's awesome. I mean, he was supposed to be revealed in that episode anyway, so that was kind of the thing, So they can pat themselves on the right arm for that one. But so far we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like we did a magic trick, and you're like, okay, did we do the sleight of hand well enough that we got through? Like, did we trick people? Does the illusion work? And I think the illusion might have worked.
Yeah, there was one person that I talked to at San Diego Comic-Con who said something that was so close to being right, and then they were like, and they moved off and they went a different direction, and I was like, you were right there, dude. You were right there, and then you moved. So it was really good. But yeah.
Oh, what did they say? Just wanted.
It was about Chicago Bear
yeah.
lobster people. Yeah.
Last night, my younger brother gave me his theory, which I will say because it's funny. He thinks it's Dana. He thinks Dana killed them, which I was just like, huh, okay, that's fun. I wish you'd done that.
Yeah. Maybe he's heard Aaron say a few times, like, who's the one person it can be? Why can't it be them? Let's make it them. So I could see that being throwing a wrench into something on purpose. So I don't blame him for thinking.
Yeah. I only say it because I think it's safe. I think we can safely
going
say
so far around that you're back at the same. It's a circle.
All right.
I'll do two things. I'll say definitively, Dana did not kill him.
Yeah.
We can give you that tidbit. Important tidbit.
Carter. Yeah.
And then the last thing that I'll leave you with is, did Em even die?
Oh, come on,
we'll
dude.
Go
All right. Well, stay tuned next week for Liz to either yell at him for that or say like, oh shit, you really threw me for a loop with that. Yeah, we're excited to see how it unfolds. And again, we'll talk about it and what we might have been leaning toward. But yeah, I truly don't have a thought necessarily in my head because I'm week to week in it. Old school.
Cool. Yeah. Well, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. We'll see you for the season finale here on the other side.
Yes, sir.
All right. Take care. Thank you again to the gents for the discussion on episode 9. We move now to a chat with an actor who you may know from roles in films including Anton Fuqua's Emancipation on Apple TV, the horror anthology VHS 99, and several TV shows including Westworld, Snowpiercer, and The Walking Dead, possibly even for his voice and motion capture work of Trevor Phillips in the Grand Theft Auto 5 game. But if you're tuning in here, you certainly have seen him plotting and scheming and scene stealing, as we said, as Revival's resident Revival hater, Blaine Abel. He is Mr. Steven Ogg. Steven, thank you so very much for joining us on the program here.
Thank you for having me. I just decided to put my hair into a sort of the douchey sunglass back because I have a fan blowing on me since I always refuse to use AC. Hair's blowing, trying to keep it clean for the kids. Although Blaine Abel does have those luscious locks that I always have blowing, so maybe I just always require a fan.
Hey, no worries.
I love it.
I lived in South Pass myself long ago, and trust me, we had a very rickety AC, and it was hard to use.
Yeah, we've got the whole house, can all central air. I don't know. I've always just been a non-AC guy, so I keep fans on me.
It's the native Canuck in you, we're going to assume, maybe.
I guess, yeah.
Before we get into Revival proper, what we like to do is jump all the way back to the early days, and we do ask guests, was acting always the path for you? Did you have dreams of being something else before acting maybe found you? I know you'd grown up doing some theater, so was performing like a family thing, or did you just know early on before most of us that you knew what you wanted to do?
I realized I was in the dark.
Okay.
Which I thought was kind of cool. And then I looked at the screen and I was like, am I seeing it all? Not that I need to be.
No, you're fine.
No, the performing thing was just something that I did since I did a performance of Betty Boop in drag in elementary school, and I don't know why. And I used to take credit for it, thinking I was creatively already right there in elementary school. But my mom pointed out once doing a podcast similar to this, and I went and I asked her because she happened to be visiting. And she said, no, that was your teacher, your kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Prasso suggested it. So for years, I've been taking credit for being some creative wonderkind. But in fact, Mrs. Prasso suggested, I don't know why, I play Betty Boop in drag. And it just, the performing bug, I guess, always. And it's kind of interesting because when you go back to like I've been reading, you read certain articles and actors, and especially now how, I don't know, the craft of acting seems to have been left behind for popularity and all these other things that I don't like. But it's interesting. I circle back to like, nothing's changed for me, as in for the love of performing. Mm-hmm. Yes. I mean, I get to make a living doing this, which is lovely and a blessing more and more these days as arts and culture seem to be completely thrown by the wayside, especially quality. But it's funny, I go back to like, I do the same thing now that I liked about it back then, the doing. That's when we were talking about watching. Have I watched it all? I love the doing. And the other, like what other I like doing is like reading my books. And I've always kind of done what I like to do. And that's never been about anything else other than that doing. Oof, that was a tangent. Sorry about that.
No, that was
living in the now, living in the moment. That's
you're just doo-dooing all over the place.
Doo-doo everywhere. It's like a monkey in a cage.
Do you do theater these days still, or do you prefer like
I
doing
haven't done it in years, but that being said, I've been wanting to do it for years. But it's once you're out of that scene, it's very, very difficult to get yourself back in. Pre-COVID, I was in London, England, and I met with the new Vic, the old Vic, Trafalgar, and all the theaters, and everyone was very excited to like either find something for me or work with me. And I wanted to do like Martin McDonough's play, The Lonesome West, and at that time actually David Harbour, I'd been talking to him about you and I should play the brothers in this, and then I actually spoke with it kind of recently with Stephen Graham from Boiling Point and all of that, and Adolescence, obviously. So there was this excitement whenever I talk about theater, like I'll just go on and on. Books and theater, I'll just go on and on. But still then COVID, and then I'm not very good at the business at following up. Basically getting to the point of I've always wanted to do like a Cillian Murphy. He did Mr. Man. He also did Max Porter's Grief is a Thing with Feathers. It's a one-man show. It's essentially a monologue, like think Kraft's Last Tape that Stephen Ray had just been performing. And I'd been working on one that fell through, unfortunately, sadly. But then the gods came and circled around again, and I began to collaborate with an Australian writer, Ella Baxter, who is her book Woo Woo I read and was just like, wow, I love her writing. Thus began the communication. Love your book, or like your work. Where are you? What do? Do you write theater? Oh, I have some theater pieces. Really? Can I read it? It's not quite. Yeah, sure. Boom, boom. Then I get it. It's the one-man show I'd like to do. I've got a friend now, the Irish director, Niall O'Brien, who's working. And now we've got a sound designer. We're working with a production designer we've just got on. We've got a producer, been talking to a producer now over in Europe, who, ironically enough, did 75 shows and worked 35 years with the late Robert Wilson, who just passed away, who did a production 25 years ago that has resonated to this day with me, that she produced, and I Zoomed with her in Rome. So I'm like, nice. That's my, when, where?
But the bug never went away for the kind of live aspect and those components of it that just are more electric maybe than the hurry up and wait of film and TV.
Do it. Like if Niall was here, he'd be right there going, oh, we're doing it. So do it in January, hopefully, for 3 curated performances. Nice. And then hopefully go to Europe and take it to festivals and take it to art installations. But yeah, that keeps my spirit alive.
No, we're excited for you. I hope that all happens for you. And that kind of bug, for performing and for theater, maybe, is there a certain discipline maybe you took from that aspect that you bring to film and TV, or something from film and TV maybe that you would apply in the future to theater? Because again, they're different animals sometimes, but while all being the same.
Honestly, I like to say that like whether it's theater, film, TV, or like the motion capture for the video game, they're all just different techniques. That's all it is. For me, they all come down to the words. It's always about the words. And so everything else is just a technique, as in the film and TV, obviously being cameras, theater, or like a motion capture. They're just techniques. I just want to what are those words? And the better, the stronger the words, the easier, if you will, the job is for the actor. You just then have to do the medium. To me, it's all performing. There's no separating it at all.
Right. You mentioned being a book lover as well. You are yourself a published author. Is that in the same vein? Is that a performance to you in a sense? Because you do have a published book of poetry called Catharsis, Catharsis-IS. But
Catharsis, my arse is capable of more than flush. All the Canadians out there, that's Gord Downey, who had this beautiful song those words have always floated in my head. Catharsis, my arse is capable of more than flush. And I've been asked actually a lot recently about number 2, because the idea is to do 5 volumes. So they stack up to make the same as the cover. So it's a nice little art installation piece. And I've got 3 of them written, like they're even probably 4. And the publisher in the UK was ready back in February for it. And now it's August. And this boy, it's just on me. It's not because I've been too busy. It's just because I haven't done it. I've had the time. So I'm definitely doing a second and third, and the volumes will be out. But that is just another. It's sort of what I say with my Instagram. It's become this art installation of I wake up, and even if I wake up and the sun in the house just like inspires me with this some reflection, and then all of a sudden there's a song in my head or a word or a lyric or something I just read from a book I'm reading, and all of a sudden I need to just, it's like behind me, all of these books, I just need, it keeps me going. So yes, it's all part of that. I need to make a different analogy because it's been gone on too long, but like a pussy boil of creativity that if I don't squeeze and let a little bit out, it's going to become infected.
I prefer that analogy. Thank you. The pussy boil.
I'm trying to think of some better one, but it's just, I need to express. Let's put it that way. I do like to express.
Speaking of expressing, when approaching the character of Blaine, did you draw any inspiration from anyone you knew or an evangelist out there or some kind of charlatan or in a book you read?
My biggest thing, which I talked, to Luke about a lot and Aaron, was I was always feeling very Nick Cave with him, just in his presence. In this sort of, and at that point, his album Wild God, was it out yet or not? I don't know, but just Nick Cave's presence on the stage and the way he kind of carries himself. And the hair, at one point I was thinking of doing like jet black hair for Blaine, but then realizing because of the small town he's in and sort of the work, he wouldn't dye his hair. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that wouldn't work. But so Nick Cave was a big influence for sort of what I wanted to do. And for his presence, I wanted to just have someone that just was in his stillness, and his power was just, he didn't need to do anything. The whole time I was like, no, I don't want to get worked up because I'm not the one to judge you. The man up above is going to judge you. So that was a big thing, is I wanted to play a lot with that stillness. And that, hey, man, that's who's going to figure this shit out. So that was sort of how it all came, that character. And then it came more from the doing. So it doesn't matter how much you work on it and what you think of it until you're on set and you're with everyone else and you're in the environment. It's sort of, I think, through the episodes, Blaine becomes even more myopic in this vision and focus, which 9 ends on. And I think 10 carries out hopefully beautifully. Again, you never know what they have to do with the edits and the cuts, but there's this one shot that I can't wait. Just like, I hope it's as when we did it, it was like, oh, fuck.
Nice.
Cool.
Look forward to seeing that. He also teased he might possibly sing in the finale. We'll see if that made the cut as well. I love the answer of Nick Cave as a comp because, you definitely, now that you say it, that's his essence is kind of there. You can go like the long black coat. I think maybe Papa Abel would have been the real charlatan who would have dyed his hair jet black. And you're right. Blaine truly believes he's not the fraud and he was Stigmata Boy, which, speaking of, red right hand, if you will.
Yeah,
but yeah, I like that answer a lot. Did you have a favorite moment to shoot in this second block of Blaine's kind of rise to power? Or I know you got a lot of monologues, some radio sermons, if you will. You got to play off of most of the main cast as well. Is there anything that stands out in particular? I know you mentioned falling in love with a few cast members when you did get to play.
Well, there's always like, listen, you never, like picking a favorite scene or a favorite actor on a shoot would be like choosing your favorite child, or like someone's going to be hurt. So we had such a wonderful shoot. They're just a great group of people, but certainly, having mentioned the one that certainly resonated that I remember, and it doesn't mean that the others are less than, it's just, this is the one where it embodied a lot. And that was when it was in 9, right? With Andy McQueen, and we'd never worked together nor met. So with that scene, when I was with Andy and I'm on top of him and we're just face to face, as we started that early on in the scene, there was trains near the warehouse we were shooting. So normally what happens is when there's a sound issue, either sound will call it or the director, Samir, in this case, he might call it. You just, all right, cut. We can't get sound, so there's no point in continuing the scene. But in this case, we were being over top of Andy, and Samir, the director, was really great at recognizing a moment that Andy and I were having, that 2 actors were connecting in this. And he let it play. I was asking Andy too. I was like looking down. I'm like, "You cool holding? Like, are you good?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was just like, "Just hold. Just keep holding." And now you don't know how long this train is going to be, but luckily it was short enough that it allowed, and it was obviously more than 30 seconds because a train doesn't take 30 seconds. So whatever, minute and a half, I don't remember how long, but of just Andy and I the whole time, we're just locked in on each other, just continuing what the scene is all about, just processing what is happening. To have all of that, and then we could hear the train dissipating, and we just picked right up into the scene and finished the whole scene, and boom. And it was just like, fuck. It felt so good. And it was so lovely of everyone to allow us to not even indulge in that, but just to exist. So that's what, like, then with the hooks, the meat hooks were in for me and Andy. Like because we had that moment, that magical moment of being able to sit in that moment, literally, as we just waited and just keep eye contact, right up to someone. Mm-hmm. Beautiful thing. It was super wonderful. So that just stood out because of that, not because, other things were less than.
Right. Did other people in the room feel that too? Or do you think it was just between you two?
I have to ask them. I don't know. I mean, certainly everyone recognized that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That it was something quite different, that it was quite unique and cool and special.
Yeah.
We had Andy on episode 5. I believe he said he had a little bit of theater background as well. So maybe you guys just have that muscle to be able to lock in and have that kind of energy and understand the moment.
Well, normally, again, it's not like you just have to cut, right? Because you don't want to wasting all of that.
Exactly.
In this case, no, we were allowed, and it's very grateful.
No, and again, the scenes with him are dynamic throughout this episode. You guys, it starts with you, gun to his head. Then you have conversations. Ends with you again, gun to his head to get away. So again, we leave us at the church with you seeing him, and we don't know what happens in 10 yet, but we're
that's what was interesting. Because those characters, there is a sort of a curiosity about each other. And, what can you do to help? And is there a possibility to help, right? And this is about how can we exist with different differences. And as we can see, it's going wonderful in America, at least.
Yeah. Although
differences are being embraced every day, more and more. So I think it's great.
We've all, Aaron, Luke, all of us, we've all tangented a few times during this run of episodes just because, they were writing this pre the current administration, and some of the stuff they had notes that were like, oh, no, that's too far. They'd never do that. They would never do this. They would never lock people up. And here we are. We won't rant on that ourselves, but that dynamic too with your character is a man of faith, and he's questioning the faith with science, and Andy, being a man of science, is now questioning his science with the faith that he's seen, and seeing the passenger up close and things like that. So the dynamic certainly shine through, be it that moment or all the moments you guys got to share together in this one.
It's layered. It's cool. That's what makes it interesting, right? And how do these people? That's why I like, a season 2 would be lovely just for the further exploration of such of can we meet somewhere that works for both of us? Not to make any sort of social commentary, because there's entertainment just for entertainment, and it's we escape, but it's fun to play with that,
Fun to watch.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Back to you. As a human being, back to you, Steven. As a human being living on the planet Earth, do you have any hobbies or interests outside of acting that might surprise people?
I think just I read, got books. I'm 3 books right here beside me, and that's that's sort of my thing. As I love to read. That's my biggest thing, I'd say.
Well, you keep yourself busy, so I imagine you do not have the downtime of some of the normies out there.
Oh, I'll go through 5 or 6 novels in a week to 10 days.
Holy cow!
I read a lot. I just go and sit out in the sun like Ray Winston in Sexy Beast, minus the banana hammock. I just read, and I honestly get my joy out of that. Aside from the morning routine and walking the dog and doing all these other things.
What's your dog's name?
Sattva. The Bodhisattva. Well, he's the ass end of the Bodhisattva, which is appropriate, Sadi, right? And so, those are, I haven't got into any sort of woodworking or anything like that.
Hey,
not yet.
Still time.
I still prefer to, be acting. It's always my when I'm acting and working on something, that's my greatest, still is my greatest joy. Like anytime I get to be on set, I really like it.
No, understood. There's something magic about it for sure. You mentioned, the one-man show and some of the theater projects. Do you have one dream role out there or one dream project, maybe a genre you'd like to play in that you haven't had the chance to, or play a historical figure or a certain character maybe?
Doing this would be one of my dream projects. Like when the other one fell through, it was a real devastation for me because this isn't something I've been wanting for a year or two. I feel like this has been since I was 16 or 17. So it's been a long road that I want to see it come to fruition. I think one day I would, and I don't have the bucket list, and I certainly don't have any. Honestly, like my ambitions are to work. Like if I can be working, and that's the greatest. I mean, obviously there's filmmakers that I'd love to work with, and they're certainly not your typical. So like a Paul Thomas Anderson, I'd say is probably the most recognizable and quick off the head thing I can think of. But mine are generally European directors, and I don't even know what art house means nowadays. But if you look at the A24s of the world or the movies, there's this movie film Harvest with Caleb Landry Jones. Man, those are the films that just excite me because they're different, they're unique, they got a voice. But when it comes to like theater, I would love to do Lonesome West, Martin McDonagh's Lonesome West. I saw that on Broadway over 25 years ago, and I don't think it's been put back up. I'd love to do that. Like me and Stephen Graham as Irish brothers, or even a David Harbour, or so many actors I'd love to do Lonesome West with. And honestly, it's funny. I say I don't have a bucket list. Now I've listed two, but Jerusalem is one of the best, I think, 21st century play, or one of the best plays ever written by Jez Butterworth. And Johnny Rooster fucking Byron is such a spectacular character. And I was so blessed to see Mark Rylance do it in New York. And then he also performed it in London. It was 30 years later. So I saw it on both. He did, and it's a 3-hour epic performance. This Johnny Rooster Byron is like Iago combined. He's just an incredible character. Mm-hmm. And Mark's performance and his energy hadn't changed. Still mind-blowing to see.
Oh, yeah. He's one of the greats. Absolutely.
And Kim Cortez, he did it. He did the Canadian, the premiere the only time. And I remember talking to him just before doing it because he was like, fuck, it's a lot to do. And I haven't seen him since, but I know he won an award for it. But I think I've probably got maybe 10 years still that I could potentially do it. So maybe if this one-man thing goes and people say, oh, he can act, then maybe I'll get something like that or have to just do it myself.
No, yeah, we're pulling for you. No more global pandemics, no more strikes, no more wildfires. So many things giving hiccups in the industry. We're hoping that does come through for you. Yeah, you've got more than 10 years. You'll play younger than you are, I think, for a good while.
Oh.
I think you're underrated as a chameleon. You get a mustache on you get a different hairdo, and you're a different guy, and a lot of stuff we've seen. So I think you can pull it off.
Now he's voguing. We've got him voguing.
Yeah, to the audio listeners, you missed Steven Ogg voguing.
Blushing, and it looks like a retro Vogue. Yeah.
Oh no, whatever we can say to make you blush, because we mean it. Nothing but heaps of praise by Aaron, by Luke in our recaps, week to week for you. Every time you have a scene, you do steal it. And again, that's no offense to this amazing cast. It's just the camera loves your face.
Well, that's very kind.
Certainly have a presence.
It's a wonderful, like I said, it's just a wonderful group. So that's, fingers crossed that we have the opportunity to continue with the story and get to play more, which would be awesome.
Hashtag Renew Revival for all you folks that are running around on social media, singing the praises of Steven Ogg and the show itself. Renew Revival. Let's go. But Steven, thank you so much for taking the time. Like I said, this was a joy to have you. This was a great feature episode for you, as again, most everyone you've shown up in has been, but this one especially, we were grateful to take the time with you and talk about acting and your kind of goals and ambitions. And again, nothing but great work we've ever seen from you. Hey, we like the tangents.
Love the tangents.
Yeah.
Got this.
Yes. Just let him go. Let's just let him go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both. It was wonderful to do, and thank you for having me on. And hopefully we will see you again on the next go round of it all.
Yeah. Season 2 recaps, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Give your dog a pet for us and take care. Enjoy the rest of your day, Steven.
She's looking at me.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you again to Steven Ogg, who I wish we could talk to for the rest of the day.
Forever, for the rest of my life.
Yeah, he's such an interesting cat, and he was as advertised as we were told he would be. Very interesting person, but in a good way. And I don't mean that in any negative or derogatory way. But episode 9, I've said this before, it was heavy, Doc. A lot of reaction out there, including lots of love and praise for Melanie, especially who's Dana Cypress got to not only punch a man, but really carry those emotional scenes that we talked about earlier with Wayne. Also, lots of love for Romy and her emotional scenes with her hovering, hallucinated mother. And Wayne got most of the ire this week on social media that was reserved for Rhodey the previous week. Although some people were still mad at Rhodey, but Wayne really got it this week. Oh, even when he came in, it's like, "Are you okay?" And everybody's like, "Shut up, Rhodey. We're still mad at you."
We have to know that he wouldn't have done that if he didn't have to. Okay, we know that.
He was tortured. He was told he'd lose family.
We would have done the same thing. I would have thrown everybody under the bus. I wouldn't do that. Maybe.
But yeah, let's jump into some reaction here.
All right. Owen, via the TV Time thread, said, in the last scene, the guy who saved M has a syringe and is ready to inject her. Now, he was at the facility. I reckon he has the water syringe and not the snake venom one. If so, they will all have a nice surprise very soon.
Yeah, we didn't actually discuss that in the episode, but a few people did mention that they thought Tyler gave her the good stuff because she did break the chains moments later. And I think possibly that is what happened. He gave her the good juju from Dr. Carl.
Right?
Yeah, L's at Sunflower Wings. We've read a comment or two from them before via Twitter said, "I just want to say that everyone in this cast nailed all caps it tonight, and I'm sending the bills your way for the emotional distress it caused me."
I feel that because I needed ointment after the goosebumps wouldn't go away. It's just Jade via the TV Time thread said, another great episode as always. I love seeing the side characters more involved in the scenes and being an active part of the story. The scene between M, her mom, and the therapist was so damn good. And the one between Dana and Wayne in the car. My heart hurt. I cried. Shout out to Romy and Mel for making me feel all that range of emotions. I truly can't wait to see how the story unfolds in the season finale. I'm beyond excited, but I'm also sad it's the last one, hopefully just for now. Fingers crossed emoji.
Hashtag Renew Revival. That's me. I'm editorializing. But yeah, same.
Every time you say it, does AI like take it and put it on the internet somewhere? Okay.
Let's hope it does something good. AI. Not just give a slap of people with extra fingers. Thank you to all actually who are dropping hashtags like Renew Revival and Revival Season 2 and the like. It can't hurt. We have one from at TravXL99 on Twitter who said, "Okay, hear me out. Em and her mom ran into a deer, in quotations, but there's still the unknown person in a deer mask. Did they hit the man somehow? Also, did the deer, man or animal, impale the mom? Were those antler punctures on her body?"
Hey!
Aaron, not Aaron Weimer, our Aaron actually did confirm earlier in this recap that yes, those were in fact antler wounds.
Cool. Deft Jack on Twitter said, I don't know how they're going to wrap this up in one episode, but I'm looking forward to seeing how they do. If Blaine really isn't the deer mask guy, I have no idea who is. It can't be Aaron's wife. Is it the person the checks were working for? I can't wait a whole week for the final episode. I also can't believe they're going to satisfy me in this last episode, but I mean, whatever.
We'll get to that in a minute. I'll say one more special shout out to Deputy Dana Cypress, aka Deputy D Cypress on Twitter, who's been a big supporter of the program and listener to this after show. I know that they're a listener to this after show. Not only do they live tweet on the night when it airs, but they found the screenshot of Brent and Brant's donation box in the police station and shouted out Brant. So I'm like, they must be a listener, so thank you. Thank you for finding the Easter egg. Thank you for being so supportive of all things Revival, Deputy D. And to your point about the couple speculations on the killer, I will say that when the guys asked before we ended with them, do you have theories on the ending? I blanked out and I was like, I haven't been thinking about it really because I've just kind of been in the moment week to week with these recaps. But in the time since we hung up with them, I have texted Liz. I've even texted them. I was like, I want this for posterity just in case. I went down a rabbit hole, almost like a challenge to myself, and was like, wait a minute, I haven't thought about this. But now I do have 9 episodes worth, so I might be cheating a little bit because I do have all 9 to kind of think on this. But I did a process of elimination down to a couple people, and I really am starting to think it's one person. So I did make my own murder board.
You murder boarded.
Kind of did. But yeah, I might not be correct. I might be way off, in fact.
Did they text you back at all? Did they say
no? I even said, don't text me back. We'll talk about it next week.
Okay.
But we'll
I think you might be right, but we won't say. Do
you have any kind of further thoughts on what this ending looks like? Because I'm starting to think a few things.
No, but to what your point was before is because I haven't been trying to think ahead. I've just been trying to take it episode by episode. And then when you texted me that, I was like, well, okay, he figured it out. I don't have to think about it.
There's one other theory I have, and I'll talk about it on the show if I happen to be off. But I am starting to believe that it's not Blaine based on everything we've seen and heard. And I'm not saying Steven's giving away that he might be able to show up more, but I've actually been thinking he's not going to eat it in this finale. I think it's going to be not that. I could see them doing like a time jump where we see him not in Wausau anymore, but he is a revival preacher. You know, like he goes on the road. And that could be, again, not knowing anything yet. I imagine they do at the very end have some type of epilogue that moves forward, whether it's a month, 6 months, a year, something. We do kind of catch up with people. And that's where I could see Blaine being like the guy in the tent out in rural America. So that's my thought of where he could be. But again, wait.
That's what I want for him.
I truly don't know the kind of core for what's going to happen. I could see like Ibrahim finally showing up to Dana's door for the date, you know, all these weeks, months later, whatever. But
maybe the last episode is just 42-minute sex scene between the two of them. They finally, maybe that's it.
And they turn off the Gen Zs forever who hates sex scenes.
I don't like them either. I don't want them.
Oh, come on.
No, I don't
want a finale of a 10-episode TV show to be all that, but no. I'm interested to see how it plays out. They certainly, like I said to them, they set the stage pieces to where I can kind of see where it's sort of going to go, but I truly don't know. And I love that I don't know.
Yeah, me too.
Again, like you, excited to see how it plays out. Let's see. How do I normally wrap this up? Lost my thought there. Oh, I normally thank everybody. Yes, thank you to Aaron Koontz, to Luke Boyce, the Revival creators, showrunners, and EPs for their insights on this episode, which once again answered many questions, connected many dots, and had some action, had some really cool setup for what's to come here. So, Liz, you as well. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I never thank anybody. I just let you do it.
You can thank Steven Ogg for me.
Oh, thank you, Steven Ogg.
Yes, pleasure to have him.
Still sweating from that.
Yes, Revival episode 9 in the books, as is this compendium recap. Thank you for tuning in. We will find you on the next one to discuss the season finale, episode 10, Rend the Veil, which is another title that's a biblical reference, I believe. Interesting. That and Mother of Babylon and Too Many Secrets. Total Bible reference, not sneakers at all.
Adding it to the murder board.
Yes, for Aaron, for Luke, for Liz, I'm Sean Talley, someone who did make his own murder board and can't wait to talk about it next week. Saying we will see you back here soon. Thank you.